Hey, what's up, YouTube? I think you guys all just witnessed the world first Spectral Throw Simulacrum. I'm not really sure if anyone's ever done a Spectral Throw Wave 30 Simulacrum, but this pretty much confirms my belief. I actually thought about this a while in the past, and Strength Stacker is probably the new Aura Stacker in the sense that it's able to take any skill you want, any attack skill that is, and it will probably make it the best possible version of that skill. Now, I do think that Lightning Strike would probably even be better on a Strength Stacker than the Trinity variant, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I do think that Trinity variant will outscale the Strength Stacker purely because the 12 link claws exist. So, kind of sad, but Strength Stacker is an incredibly strong archetype. I do think in the past, a lot of people have been led astray on the path of failure onto an occultist playing Shockwave Cyclone with negative move speed. But greener pastures are ahead. You can play a Berserker, probably one of the best attack-based ascendancies in the game, especially with the new Forbidden Flame and Flesh jewels with Juggernaut. But basically, Strength Stacking is new. It's hot and new again. It's definitely the new hip build archetype in town, and I do think that this build archetype should be played a lot more, as it pretty much allows you to enjoy any skill you want, and you're not really pigeonholed into just playing Venom Gyre. You could actually play any melee skill to your heart's desire, but you should probably choose a melee skill or attack skill that has good clear. The whole point of these archetypes is to take skills with good clear, good mechanics, and have bad single target, and take it into a powerhouse because the single target has been fixed so that the skill will end up being one of the best skills in the game, like Frostblades. However, Spectral Throw is probably just not good enough, even with the damage buffs. But let's go see why exactly Strength Stacker is the new Aura Stacker. So in order to understand this equation, we need to know why Aura Stacker was so fun in the past. Aura Stacker had a great baseline of defense and offense, 90% maximum resistance with 50% physical damage reduction. Aura Stacker also allows you to use any spell skill, and it would most likely be the best build variant of that specific spell. Now, I know this firsthand in the past, in that I was able to play Winter Orb, I was able to play Blade Vortex, and that version of that skill was probably the best version of that skill that you could possibly have for any build, right? So Winter Orb felt amazing on the pre-nerf Aura Stacker, so the Blade Vortex, so the Penance brand, so the Storm brand, every single variant of a skill would be the best on an Aura Stacker, right? And it also allows you to have lots of customizations with so many available jewels and cluster jewels. So you can see here, you get a large cluster, you get a medium cluster, you have jewel sockets. And this kind of customization is kind of dead. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit real fast. Is that currently the new Aura Stacker, I will be making a video on Aura Stackers in general. It's kind of boring in the sense that it is a very solved build and what they have to do. And purely a lot of that is purely since they have no crit multi. If you go look at this, every single Aura Stacker right now has to use 2 Transcendent Fleshes with Lethal Pride to stack the multi high enough, and they're barely at above multi. And they also lose both of their jewel sockets that they actually had because they have to use Forbidden Flame and Flesh. So you actually have to run a Voices now, and you have to run Introspection or 35% effect. So you can see here, all of these are Introspection and 35% effect jewels. So there's no real room for creativity anymore in Aura Stacker, in that basically every single person is going to be running those type of jewels, but there is a little bit. But Aura Stacker is just a very fun build in general because you have to figure it out. You have to put together the pieces. A lot of people put it together wrong, and it is very enjoyable once you are able to get it all to work. And the same thing applies to Strength Stacker, right? Strength Stacker has a lot of these benefits that you will see. So let's see, what does Strength Stacker actually have? Now, the current version of Strength Stacker has great baseline defense built in. You have 75% block. You have 100% spell suppression with the tree with almost no investment into spell suppression. And you have the ability to run 3 defensive auras. And running 3 defensive auras is really strong in today's day and age. Now, the reason behind that and why you're able to run the defensive auras is that you don't really have that many damage auras that really benefit chaos damage attacks. So you can see here we have Determination, we have a lot of armor, a lot of evasion, and you have high res relatively, you have high chaos res, you have almost max block, and you have almost max spell suppression. And what this means is that you can play any attack based skill. You have this baseline level of defense, and you're able to do a lot of damage. And it is probably one of the best versions of this attack skill you could possibly play. And like I said before, you can play skills of amazing clear and bad single target, or skills that you just personally enjoy. So Frostblaze has been well known as the best melee clear ability in the game, purely because it has an insane target acquisition range. And then Spectral Throw is the same thing, as in that it's a skill that's universally beloved. Probably one of the most played skills of all time that is never played at all today. So, what are the mandatory items for Strength Stacker? For Strength Stacker, we have Replica Alberon's Warpath. These are the boots that actually give us the flat chaos damage per 80 strength. Iron Fortress 6-link chest. So, Iron Fortress is needed because it gives you 3% melee damage bonus instead of 1%. So you'll see why this is very important later on. Crown of Eyes, which allows us to convert the spell damage into attack damage at 150% of value. And then the rest of the gear, once you have these three main core pieces, is just a bunch of rares and uniques with lots of strength. You can use Meginor's Vise, the gloves of 100 strength. You can use Astramentus, and you can use rare rings with essence strength. You can use a heavy belt with strength on it. So you can pretty much see the general gist of it is just get as much strength as possible on your gear. So why does strength stacking actually do so much damage? And the simple answer is synergy. Synergy, like all things in life, you have to put together the pieces to fit the puzzle. And Replica Alberon's Warpath gives you 1 to 80 chaos damage per 80 strength. Now, Iron Will, which is a node on the trees, let's go see where Iron Will is, right? Iron Will is over here, and this makes it so that strength damage bonus also applies to all spell damage as well. And what this means is that the Iron Fortress makes strength gives 3% increased melee physical damage instead of 2%. So normally, what does strength actually give, right? So actually, strength actually usually gives 1%. So I actually mistyped that. So ignore this line instead of 1%. So this Iron Fortress pretty much triples the benefit of strength on melee physical damage attack. So with these two nodes together, with Iron Will and Iron Fortress, it makes strength every 5 strength gives 3% spell damage, basically, right? Instead of 1% melee physical attack damage. So that's why this node over here, combined with this chest piece, which gives you strength damage bonus, grants 3% increased melee physical damage per 10 strength. So that's actually a huge deal. Actually, I think this is about right, because I think this is 2% actually, because you actually get 5 strength, right? 5 strength is 1%. So yeah, it's right. So what I actually typed on there is actually correct. So basically, Iron Fortress converts the strength to a higher value, and the Iron Will makes it so that strength melee physical damage bonus gets applied to spell damage instead. And then Crown of Eyes applies all spell damage to attacks at 150% of their value, right? So strength is giving us melee fizz damage converted to spell damage, and then the Crown of Eyes converts the spell damage to attack damage at 100% of 150% of value. And then you're able to stack flat strength and percent strength to get over 2,000 plus strength. So you have a bunch of added damage. You have a bunch of spell damage that's converted to attack damage. And this also allows us to take advantage of mods like 1% damage per 15 strength. You can find this mod on the new Eldritch Implicits on gloves if you want. You can also find this mod on the amulet. So there's a lot of different ways to scale it. There is also even this node on the tree right here, this mastery, attack mastery, 1% increased attack damage per 16 strength. And this is actually an insane amount of damage increase generally. So you can see here lots of synergy. And the real OP part of strength stacking starts at the helm. The rare helmet is what puts this build over the top. This helmet gives us roughly capped crit and hit chance with no additional investment besides wearing this helmet, right? It also provides negative chaos resistance, which is very important for chaos builds because there's not really many sources of penetration for chaos besides despair and this helmet enchant. So this also allows us to use Battle Mage's Cry, which you'll see in a little bit why it's so OP. So this helmet has 15% increased Battle Mage's Cry buff effect for the enchant, and then you have life, and the main thing here is crit chance per 10 strength. So if you have like 2,500 strength, you have 250% crit chance from this helm, and then gain accuracy rating equal to your strength. So you have 2,500 accuracy if you have 2,500 strength. So you pretty much solve your crit and hit chance problem completely. And then you also have depend of nearby enemies have 12% chaos res negative. So what is Battle Mage's Cry and why is it important? So Battle Mage's Cry pretty much gives us Crown of Eyes in this War Cry buff effect, right? So if you read it here, it says Battle Mage's Cry grants us The buff makes increases in reduction to spell damage also apply to attacks at 25% of their value per 5 power, up to a maximum of 150%, right? So 150% is at maximum power, but we can wear a red blade banner to have maximum power at all times. Now, if you looked at Crown of Eyes does the exact same thing. So max rank Battle Mage's Cry or max buff power Battle Mage's Cry is the same as Crown of Eyes, but what this means is that we're able to scale Warcry buff effect that you can get 63% easily from Tree, Lethal Pride, and Helmet enchant. So you can see here, in the tree down here, you can have 30% buff effect here, and then you have 10% here. And then also you have 15% on your helmet. And Lethal Pride down here gives us, so this one here, my Lethal Pride is 5% strength, 5% strength, 8% Warcry buff effect. So there's actually another node for 5% strength, but I just don't have the points to take it at the moment. So basically you can see here, Battle Mage's Cry gives us 63% increased buff effect. Now here's where the magic happens, folks. So you can see Venom Gyre, 292k DPS, right? Battle Mage's Cry now with the buff effect, 2.2 million DPS. And that's just the power of strength stacking. That right there is why strength stacking is broken in my opinion and is too strong because of Warcry buff effect. Now keep in mind that you could get a much better Lethal Pride. You could also use Anomalous Urgent Orders for even more Warcry buff effect. So Warcry buff effect is extremely broken with the synergy. And like I said in the past before, this build is all about synergy. You have the defenses from like life and percent strength and giving you spell suppression and block. Like Replica Iron Fortress gives you max block per 50 strength. So this is why attribute stacking builds are generally so strong, is because you have so many things synergizing together. You have your defenses in check, you have your offenses in check, everything works well in perfect harmony. So what conclusions can we actually draw from this? The main conclusion is that you can pretty much play any attack skill at an insane power level with just a few gem swaps. It is also maybe possible to play a bow build with this setup. I haven't really tried it out. You would have to probably use minimum Warcry power, but it probably would work. And it's prohibitively expensive to start up though, and no real budget variant as the boots gatekeep the whole build. Now, as someone who's seen it in the past, boots are kind of going down in price. They're like 32x. I think there's some people price fixing it. It was at 40x yesterday, so hopefully all in due time the boots will get cheaper due to supply and demand. Now, I also think that Brutus Lead Sprinkler could probably lead to some interesting builds and be very strong, but attack speed is so slow. So you could probably use Molten Strike with this and probably come up with some good builds. And the reason being is you could just slap on the rare helmet, use Battle Mage's Cry, same exact concept, and do a bunch of damage. Maybe you could use Ground Slam even, and that could be a more budget option rather than having to use the Replica Albrons Warpath. And the main thing I want to know is please use good skills of strength stacking and stop falling into the trap of Cyclone, Shockwave, Occultist with negative move speed. If you've ever seen any one of those people do a map clear, it is painfully slow unless they're rocking Mage Blood or something. So you can see here, this is from Scourge League last league. So the Replica Albrons Warpath, 82% of players are playing Shockwave and Cyclone, and it's probably even more than that. 85% are playing Occultist. You do not need to be an Occultist. An Occultist is a huge trap for this build, I think, because of the lack of boost speed on Ascendancy. Maybe it's better with the new Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewels. Berserker will always be the best for attack damage. Berserk feels amazing. And the new jewel you can get with Undeniable is actually a huge synergy. So if you look at Undeniable and what it gives here is 1% attack speed per accuracy rating. And you gain accuracy rating equal to twice your strength, right? So it's a huge node for more synergy. And it actually pushes this build over the top. So let me know down below in the comments whether you will try out this synergy or this build archetype and what skills you might have in mind for me to try out personally that I could showcase in some later videos. I was thinking that Wild Strike could potentially look pretty cool. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalts, and Mage Bloods to me. And please don't move like a snail with an Occultist Cyclone with this archetype. And see you next time. Bye.